I mean, one of the reasons that we receive so many DMs and that so many people talk to us about this is because in the early X-Files days, Claire did a very popular, very well-received episode on her experience with attachment theory.
Attachment theory is a lens through which you can look at something through. You can switch lenses and look at the same circumstance and understand different parts of it through different lenses. Welcome to the X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on. I'm Claire.
And I'm Janice. We are breakup coaches, here to help you beat your breakup,
Heal your broken heart,
and move on to an amazing, abundant life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of X-Files. We hope that you are having a really great year so far and that you are feeling that you are beating your breakup, starting to turn a corner with things. And that's why we're here today, to help you continue to do that. Yeah. So before we get started, would you like to work with one of us one-on-one for extra support beating your breakup? Well, all you need to do is go to our Instagram. That's X-Files Podcast, all one word, and hit us up in the DMs, and we will connect you instantly with information on how to do that.
As soon as we see it, we will connect you instantly.
I'm fairly quick. It'll be at least within the same day. And also we would just simply like to hear from you. So and then another thing, if you are enjoying X-Files, why don't you let us know by leaving us a review in Apple Podcasts?
Yeah.
What a great idea.
What a great idea. It takes a couple minutes and it makes us feel really, really good about getting up early in the mornings and recording these episodes for you guys. So
absolutely. And we would like to thank you for leaving us a review. So if you screenshot the X-Files account, a copy of your review, and we will send you a personal thank you in the mail along with some X-Files stickers. Yeah. All right. Yay. So please, it's such a great gift to us. And if you love it, that's a really great way to show it and to help others find the show.
Awesome.
So, shall we dive in?
Yes. So with this episode, we wanted to start off by kind of sharing our intention behind it. We've actually spent a while preparing for this episode, longer than our usual ones, just because I think the topic is really important to us, and we didn't want to say something offhand that wasn't entirely 100% how we feel about it, because I think this is really important for us to get super right,
as right as
you can.
Yes.
Yeah. So with this episode, our intention is to share maybe some nuance that we think has been missing from the conversation about attachment styles as it happens in our DMs, as it happens on our Facebook group, and as we've seen kind of across social media.
Definitely with that.
Yeah. I don't think that this nuance is missing from attachment research or from people who are doing more long form content of diving into attachment styles. So it's really in those places where I think, you are limited by time and space. And so that maybe is where we see that nuance missing, but we think it's really important to address it. And so, so I guess that's where I'm coming from. Janice, did I miss anything that's important to you intention-wise?
I'm doing this. One of the reasons I wanted to do this episode is because my intention is to empower people. Yeah. And I feel like that's what's missing in the conversations I'm having with people, is that they feel like this is controlling them rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
And it's not how I feel about these theories and concepts. So.
Yeah. And we will dive fully into that. But we just wanted to kind of start off with some background and context as well before we start diving into actual examples of you know, uh, the patterns of DMs we've received and things like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that we receive so many DMs and that so many people talk to us about this is because in the early X Files days, Claire did a very popular, very well received episode
Yeah.
on her experience with attachment theory. Since then, a lot of people have reached out to us,
Yeah.
taking for granted that we know about attachment,
Mhm.
and speaking to us about how it showed up in their breakup. So I thought it would be kind
Yeah.
of good to go down memory lane a little bit, and for Claire to give us some background on that experience, what it was like for her, and
Yeah.
what it's been like since. I'll talk about my experience with attachment as well.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, I was introduced to attachment theory through the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller. You've probably seen this book around. It is 10 years old, but it's really had a resurgence
That's for
in
sure.
the past couple of years.
Mhm.
And that's, I found out about it as part of that resurgence. I didn't know about attachment theory when I was going through my like two big breakups that, kind of led me to this work. And so writing the episode, it was a solo episode, and um it was one of those things that just kind of like flowed out of me. I had like recently really started becoming obsessed with attachment theory and like
Mhm.
reading all the stuff about it, and started like connecting the dots in my own life. And the episode, actually, I wrote it like I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I need to write this. And like 3 a.m., I'm on my phone. I wrote an article which I posted on Medium, and that did very well on Medium. And I was like, let's make this podcast format and put it on the podcast too. And it was also very well received on the podcast, which was huge for me because it was probably the most personal episode I've done, like sharing a lot of detail that I think I usually just allude to kind of like broader themes in my life than going into like who said what and when. And that episode definitely went there. So I'm so appreciative that people received it
Yeah, definitely.
well.
Thank you to everyone. We often ask people what their favorite episode is, and a lot of people still talk about that.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah.
Mm.
So like amazing in that way. And it, for the process of sharing it and putting those pieces together that led to its creation, like that gave me a lot of solace because like the specific instance that I talk about in that episode, uh, like it didn't make much sense to me before then. So when I started connecting the dots with attachment style, I was like, "Oh, this makes what I thought was totally illogical, something I regretted and didn't know why I did. It made it make sense." And I think that's why it like connects to so many people, cuz that's an experience we've all had. We often say with breakups, like they bring out the worst in people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and attachment style makes that like dark side make sense in a lot of ways. But with that article, I think I could have done a better job in explaining that it made this situation make sense to me. It's not necessarily like an overarching description of the entire relationship, if that makes sense. Like,
Mhm.
there are obviously things that I can find where attachment theory doesn't seem to apply.
Yeah.
And it doesn't explain everything that happened in the relationship. And, that just as a way to explain how I think about this, like attachment theory is a lens through which you can look at something through. You can switch lenses and look at the same circumstance and understand different parts of it through different lenses. So like the
Yeah.
attachment theory lens only shows you so much. You are going to miss things if you're not using any other lenses. Like for example, like there are the lenses of mental health. You could also look at family history, low self-esteem, super intelligent. You could look at adult trauma. You could
Mm-hmm.
look at brain structure and damage. So
Mm-hmm.
like those are all different lenses that like attachment theory kind of leaves out. Like, attachment theory does talk about your family history and stuff, but it's in that, it's within the confines of kind of
Yeah.
one thing.
Mhm. And I
So
think family history really only is like a drop in the bucket when it comes to how we show up as adults, because
yeah.
as we all know, like at a certain point, no matter what your background as a grown up, you do need to take it upon yourself to,
Yeah.
rise above it in some cases, learn how to be a better partner despite it, learn how to communicate better despite it.
hmm But
And yeah, go ahead, go on.
yeah. That's okay. Like consciously you
Mhm.
can change as an adult, which I think is one of the nuances we see missed typically, but also that it can be unconsciously changed for you as an adult. So like if you experience a very traumatic breakup, you could go from being secure to having a more anxious attachment
Yeah,
style,
that's
or
also true.
avoidant, or
Mhm.
both, you know so yeah, so I feel like the best work that I do with clients, because attachment style does come up a lot in our sessions, is when we discuss the X in relation to the client and the lessons. So, um, it, the changes they want to make, the red flags that their X showed, so that they can move on with that knowledge. So you know, it's a process of moving from the first impulse of psychoanalyzing the X and moving towards, let's see how those things that we saw
Mhm.
actually relate to you and your reactions and the things that you have control over and you can
Right.
change. Um, yeah, so if we're turning the attention away from what you can control, that's something that we're going to push back against, basically. Yeah. And something I also bring up with my clients too, when they start going down that path of like, what were they thinking? I think they're avoidant. This is why, is it's impossible to know exactly what your ex was thinking or feeling. Even if you got to talk to them, like, I don't think they could tell you, honestly. The one time that is helpful to briefly analyze and conjecture is if your ex's actions are impeding closure. And um you can't know. You can't 100% know. But if a conclusion you come to, one, allows you to move on, two, gives you agency, and three, gives you the most reassurance, I don't care whether we can't prove it or not with the X. If it gives you those things, then it's good, even if it's totally wrong. But I think the problem with attachment styles, um, if you're not careful, is that it takes away agency and it doesn't allow you to move on because suddenly you're a victim.
Yes.
And
Yes. Mm-hmm.
it isn't really that reassuring, because we often see people saying, "Hey, this is a reason I should try again with my ex."
Yes. Mhm.
So yeah, so I mean, it's been huge and heartwarming and so special to hear from people who have enjoyed the episode and found it resonated and have felt like it allows them to move on and gives them agency and gives them reassurance. But we just have concern about those listeners who've taken it as proof that they could have had a different outcome if they had only known this before.
Yeah. And not
Yeah.
examining your own actions. We're going to talk about the different types of messages that we get, but I think that one reason we're doing this episode is if you're interested in attachment, that's really great. And this is, kind of a way to take it to the next level in a way. And this is a way to, apply it in a positive way in your life and in your future relationships.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. Yeah.
So, anything else you want to say about your experience with the episode or, experience studying attachment?
Yeah. I mean, I think I fairly summed it up, but basically, um my experience has been one of changing attachment styles. I don't think that what I described in that episode was me having an anxious attachment style
Mhm.
in that situation with that person.
I
I don't
agree.
think I was coming into that relationship as anxiously attached. I
Mhm.
think, I was secure, 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 and then had this obviously huge breakup that I was not processing correctly. And
Mhm.
then I enter a highly volatile relationship. Like, obviously, I was having more of an anxious moment
Yeah,
than
I don't
I
know.
would
We've talked a lot
typically.
about this.
Yeah.
I feel what you did was pretty reasonable personally. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just me. But I mean, you know yourself and what you were thinking and what the experience was like for you far better than I do. So,
Yeah. I
yep.
think if I was coming in with like the knowledge that I have now, I
Yeah.
would have been like, cool, have a nice life, and went on my merry way,
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
So
completely. That also, though, I feel would have been very, very
very
valid as well.
reasonable
Yes, yeah.
response. But
I
I
mean, it
did
was an
not do that.
intense situation. So,
Yeah.
all right. So since then, it's been, oh, I don't know, 10 months or so since all of this went down. And
Yeah.
so I just wanted to touch on my experience because I'm coming at it from a tiny bit, or if not a huge,
Yeah, hugely
hugely
different
different place.
direction. Yeah, I think so.
So,
That's fair.
um, so I mean, which is fine. We're two different people.
Mhm.
I started hearing about attachment at the beginning of the X Files journey. I know that we did an IG live about it because it was something that you were really on fire about. And
Yeah.
so we had a conversation where you told me about it and I asked you questions about it. That was really fun. And then, it didn't really light me up too much.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, I was just like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But then I started getting clients who were mentioning it a lot and saying
Yeah.
that they had just read the attached book. So then I thought, oh, well, I should,
I
as
should
a
read it.
coach, be able to relate to people and have discussions about this with them.
Mhm.
And, people bring it up in the Facebook group a lot. I did a search and it was like tons of posts where people had brought it up.
Mhm.
And like I said, we started getting lots of DMs referencing it as well. And so I got the book and I was super excited to read it. And I guess I'll just say that I was not in love with it.
Yeah.
I
There
yeah,
were lots of text messages like, "What?"
what is happening? Yeah, I mean, just from the very beginning of the book, they talked about codependence in a way that I didn't think was quite correct. Definitely
Mhm.
a lot different from how I view codependence and how a lot of people who study codependence view it, which that kind of got my suspicions raised right away. I was like, I'm kind of surprised that they're talking about it in this way because I don't know, I didn't
Oh.
think it was correct. And then there was just like so many things where I don't know, I just didn't agree. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And so then I started thinking to myself, and I kept this kind of private, like, this is, I just was like, this is bunk. Like, I don't know that I just thought, I just know for me, I don't agree with this theory of attachment.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
Like,
You're like, "Why does everyone else seem to get
because
this and
yeah,
I
and
don't?"
I was just, and yeah, I mean, I had very sensitive conversations with clients where I would just, instead of focusing so much on the theories themselves and on attachment, I would really shift the focus to let's look forward, because I
Yeah.
was just so uncomfortable discussing it with people, not knowing what to do with these feelings and opinions that I had about it. But like I said, I mostly kept them to myself. Then I was involved with an organization taking courses for a little bit last year called Conscious Partner. One of the first classes that they had available was attachment theory. And I was super resistant to doing it because at that point I kind of had a bad attitude about it.
You were like,
Um,
no.
yeah, but I just thought, um, do it. I had signed up. And
Yeah.
so, and then I was like, yes, so I had only read the book and
Yeah.
they brought in all these different perspectives and sources and different ways of
Mhm.
viewing it. And they were the ones who talked about it being more on a spectrum, which I have to
Yeah.
say that even of itself, I mean, the spectrum is so huge. It's
Yeah.
like, it's hard to really, well, it's definitely hard to define yourself by a spectrum that's so huge, and which something we're going to talk about. But
Yeah.
also, they had a strong emphasis on the fact that it's a very fluid thing,
Yeah.
whereas I feel that the book does not. That's how I read it. But I know after I took this course, I was like, this makes a lot more sense. However, I did decide from there on out that whenever it came up with my clients, I would refer to it as attachment tendencies rather
Yeah.
than I am this is me, this is my style.
Yeah.
Um, and which has helped a lot. And I have to say, it's been really eye-opening to a lot of people to hear me refer to it as such.
As
And
tendencies.
I
Yeah.
definitely know that in my work with clients, I've focused on that every time that it's come up, which has been has been quite a bit.
Yeah.
I talked to them about the notion that that these are tendencies that we can address
Yeah.
and change.
Because our clients and listeners are amazing. Like obviously you're here to learn things
Yeah.
and you do have like believe in your agency to a point because you're like, hey, this is something that I can learn about and then do better at. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And
Yep.
so, our clients are often at least for me, and it sounds like for you too, Janice, like they're coming to us with their own research as well, which is really cool, but
Yeah.
also like something that, it gets refined through discussion with someone
Mm-hmm.
like Janice, who's like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is fluid and also
Yeah.
like contextual. And I think that the book attached, like I think I see the effort that they made to say, hey, this can change. They did say it was hard to change though.
Mm-hmm.
And they did say like just the way they phrased it though,
Mm-hmm.
I think made that fluidity lost on people. They said,
Yeah.
be with some if you're anxious, try to find someone who's secure because then you will become more secure. And it's like, yes, but I think the follow through from that is that your attachment style depends a lot on the triggers in a certain circumstance or a certain context.
Mm-hmm.
So not necessarily that, you have to be with a specific person in order to
Mm-hmm.
do certain things. I think it's more like the things that come up within relationships trigger us in different ways and will show us tendencies
Uh-huh.
that we could describe as either avoidant, anxious, secure,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So I don't know if that elaborated on what you were saying, but
Yeah, it
um,
does. I mean, I think that um I don't see the focus, I guess, on how
yeah.
to really change it other than make sure that you find a secure person.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, there's not very many secure people out there because secure people love being in relationships and they are so easily in relationships. So
According to the
you're
book.
yes, and so
Yeah.
you're really likely to end up with these avoidant types. And it's just not how I think that just completely removes personal responsibility from it because
Mhm.
your partner's job is not to make you secure. It's kind of your job to figure out how to be more secure. Like with the
Yeah.
text messaging thing, for instance. So if I'm anxious and I can't stop texting my partner during the day, um, I would become more secure because my partner's going to be okay with it and text me back all the time. They had in the book, according to the book.
Yes, yeah. So that might be where it's missed because
Okay.
like based on my reading of the book and all the other like reading
Mm-hmm.
of different
Mm-hmm.
sources that I think are informing my opinions now that I can't
Yeah.
like track down and pinpoint. Like I would read that as those first few texts would give you the reassurance you need to then have the independence to not be texting so much during the
Yeah.
day. It's
Mm.
about like those like asks. It's like kind of like the is it Gary Chapman with the
The love languages?
um yes, but I'm actually I'm not thinking about that. I think it's like it's the guy who wrote 7 Reasons Marriages Fail.
Hold on.
But maybe we'll link this, but basically they did lots of studies analyzing couples and then following up with them like 5 years later to see if they're still together. And basically like it's I think they called it a bid for attention where one partner would say something and whether or not the other partner responded and turned towards them,
Mm-hmm.
that actually was a really good indicator of whether they would still be together
Mm-hmm.
down the road. And so it's basically like if you're anxious, you put out a bid for attention. If it's met, you're like, cool, I'm good. I'm gonna go focus on my work now.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not met, that's when it's like, ah! Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I don't think that that story about the texting all the time and that
Uh-huh.
one time that text wasn't sent, I think that's very extreme. Like, I think that person likely like has other things going on like actual
Yeah.
anxiety,
Yeah.
like instead of
Uh-huh.
just their attachment styles
Mm.
anxious, like they might just be anxious
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
period.
Mhm.
So
But
I
that
think
too is something to definitely work on to overcome and not put the burden on your partner.
yeah, and learn different coping mechanisms, and
Yes.
you guys are here for that and we're here for it too.
Yep.
And yeah, so like it is something like you do learn these things as an adult because like if you know, we learn through doing and we learn through watching. And if we didn't have great examples to watch when we were kids, then we probably don't know these things yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
s-
And I also think that's something that could be studied a little bit more is how pivotal and how significant someone's first serious relationship is when it
yeah.
comes to all of this, more than necessarily what happened to them when they were a baby. But that's just me. I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
a
true.
sociologist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I've continued to
Huh.
study this. I'm actually reading a new book. It's early days for me, but I am reading a book on attachment that I'm actually so far pretty thrilled with. And it's called Secure by Jessica Fern. And like I said, I'm not too far into it yet, but the general emphasis, and I think maybe this is why I like it, and that is the general emphasis in a lot of literature on polyamory has to do with examining your own patterns, taking personal responsibility in relationships. There's a lot of emphasis on personal growth,
Yeah.
and that shows up in this book really early on. So I'm really enjoying it. You might want to check that out if you want more other perspectives. So, all this being said, one reason I wanted to do this episode, one reason we both wanted to do this episode, is that I've seen kind of this overemphasis on diagnosing others, both with attachment styles and as we've talked about a lot with narcissism. This concern started to grow both as attachment style came more into my coaching and a lot of DMs that reference really toxic situations and pretty painful and messy breakups from what people are telling me. But as really simplistic explanations that they have to do with a person's attachment style, either the person DMing me or their ex, sometimes both. And so it's gotten to the point where I'm actually like concerned
Yeah.
about this. And look, I think some people have read the books, which are great. And, on the other hand, I think some people are taking really quick quizzes online, which
Yeah.
I think is problematic. And also, this is all over social media.
Yeah.
And so I think, potentially people are getting their information from there, which I mean, it's fine. It's just there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I want to empower people. I want to see
Yeah.
people taking charge of their life rather than,
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, playing the victim and keeping themselves small, and also excusing, bad behavior both on themselves and others.
Yeah. And I think, on the social media point, I think that's a great place for like pollinating ideas and learning about new concepts you might not have been exposed to if you hadn't been like in the what is it, like mindfulness TikTok or like mental health TikTok or whatever.
Mhm.
But I think it's important when you learn something on social media, take it as a very first taste. It's just a spoonful of what there is. And then follow up with your own research. Be like, okay,
Yeah.
what are the top books I can read on this
Yes.
particular topic?
Mhm.
Use it as a jumping off point. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it's just, it's so instant gratification that we think we can get, like, we can understand a concept fully from, 3 minutes is like the max amount of a
Yeah.
video. And like maybe someone does a 3 or 4 part video on something on TikTok. Like, that's not enough,
Yeah, I mean, if
to
something
like learn
really
about it.
turns you on, that you see on social media, use it
Yeah.
as kind of a sign to go and, yeah, study more about it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, that's, I'm sure we'll be coming back to this too in the future. I
Right?
am at the end of this month, I'm starting a course on somatic attachment therapy. It's a
So
certificate
cool,
course. I am
Claire.
so excited.
Oh,
Um, like there's a broad range of faculty, but one of the people I'm most excited to like hear from is Dr. Peter Levine. He's written several books
oh, I know
on,
him.
yeah, Waking the Tiger
Yes.
is one of them. It's all about like kind of you've probably heard of The Body Keeps the Score. That's like a similar kind of topic area that he speaks on. It's like trauma stored in the body, and he's going to be teaching a class in that course on transgenerational trauma and attachment. I'm like so
Awesome.
excited. So I'll be back in 4 months with like a whole lot more information. So like that's one example. Like I've now, I probably was exposed at first to attachment style on social media. I was
Mhm.
like, that's cool. Let me read more. And I continued reading books on it, and now I'm doing like an actual certificate course on it.
Badass.
Yeah, and combining it with somatics, which is like the coolest thing
Oh,
ever.
I'm
Um,
happy for you.
Thank you.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the DMs?
Yes. So these are we like, first of all, before we dive into it, we feel for each and every person. And
Mhm.
like, I think that, these are valid first responses. We just don't want them to be your full response to
Yes.
this.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I'm guessing there's people out there who are going through this or have gone through it. And I honestly, all I want to do is help. So that's why I
Yeah.
thought we could talk about some examples, because I was thinking it'd probably resonate with
Yeah.
listeners.
And if you're someone who's listening and you're like, "Oh my God, I sent that in. I can't believe I used it."
Oh,
I promise you, you weren't the only one. And
no.
we are sharing the things that we've heard over and over and over
Yeah,
again.
for
So
sure.
just so you know, you're
Yep.
not being called out individually right now. It's very much part of a trend.
Mhm.
So,
So I'll read a couple.
yeah.
So for instance, we've had this theme. My partner was super horrible to me because they are avoidant.
Yeah.
My ex did some horrible things, but they are avoidant, and I didn't realize it until now. Or my ex didn't realize they were doing these horrible things because they're avoidant.
Yeah.
Oh, I've gotten this one a lot. My ex and I have been on again and off again for a long time. It is because they are avoidant, and it is because I am anxious.
Ah.
I have even spoken to someone who was like on again, off again 10 times, and was just cool with it because this was how they explained it. I
Yeah.
have a horrible relationship. I acted out because I am anxious attached, or I pushed my partner away because I was
Yeah.
anxious and
That's a
because
big
they did
one.
certain things. It was outside of my control.
Nope, not outside of your control. Another one, my partner cheated on me because they are avoidant. I feel bad for them.
Mhm.
It's like, with this thing that makes them cheat.
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
no. Um, I can't move on from my breakup, and can't stop stalking and contacting my ex because I'm anxiously attached. My ex was really horrible to me. That's like our filler words for a specific circumstance that was really
Yes,
horrible,
yes.
you know?
Yeah,
It's not
I
that
mean, I would
everyone
never
is
come on and
saying
give the
so horrible.
specifics, but we've
Yeah.
just gotten lots of stories that are
Yeah.
pretty shocking, I have to
It
say.
can be summed up by
Yeah.
pretty horrible. Uh, so my ex was really horrible to me, but they are avoidant, so I feel like I should stay friends with them to help them. And I get this a lot, send them information about attachment styles so they can heal. Which is so wonderful and so nice of you, but no, we are
A
focusing
little
on you.
problematic.
Yeah, if they run into attachment styles and it resonates, they can do that on their own. Um, they didn't know what they were doing.
Hmm.
My ex was really horrible to me and our relationship was really horrible. I now realize it's because they are avoidant, and so I think I should give it another chance.
Hmm.
I didn't like how my ex treated me, but they didn't mean it. They're avoidant and it's just who they are. Um, or how I am. Um, I did some things I regret, but I did it because I'm anxious. I can't help it. And I
Yeah.
think that my episode really feeds into that one. Um, because, that was something that I wasn't it wasn't my proudest moment.
But you didn't
Um,
know about attachment at the time you did it,
yeah.
you know? Like
Oh,
these
so
are
I
people.
wasn't like, I'm
Mhm,
gonna do this because I'm anxious and you have to deal with it.
mhm.
No, I was just doing it, and it was like after the fact, I was like, oh, I probably did this because that was an anxious tendency, and I had a lot of reason actually to be anxious in that moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
If you have these tendencies and you have certain triggers, yeah, yes,
yeah,
you will probably act on the tendency.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So,
So, well, this is a heavy one, but like I
yeah,
keep on saying, I do think it's going to help. So, let's talk about two. I think we've actually got three issues here with how it shows up and things that we kind of want to clarify with people in order to help you use this to grow.
mhm,
So, first of all, it's not about you acting differently to manipulate your partner or your ex into staying. Positive change happens for you, and it has to be two people working together to both
yeah,
improve and stay together. And what's
yeah,
one of the X Files themes? Breakups are such good opportunities to learn about ourselves.
yeah,
It's a rich time for self reflection and taking time to lovingly learn about your past patterns and how you have shown up in relationships. Yes, dear.
and that should not mean to you that, wow, it's such a great time for my ex to grow from this experience. Let me share with them what I'm learning.
Mhm. Yeah.
No, let's focus on you. I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of people can go with it, is they're like, oh, they need to know these things as
Hmm.
well. And while I agree, maybe it would help their lives, different things resonate with different people, and you can't lead a horse to water, and you're also not the person who is responsible for that horse anymore.
Well, and I feel like it kind of misses the point because learning about attachment tendencies
Mhm.
it's a really good way to arm yourself with useful information to move forward in the world,
Forward. Yeah.
in and outside of relationships, really. I would say, take
Yeah.
a look at how it shows up when you're
Like in
not with someone.
friendships too.
But I say don't fall into the trap of using it to stay focused in the past. Pay
Yeah.
attention to what helps you grow rather than deciding to cling to a certain type of style or explanation to explain your past behavior, explain present bad behavior,
Yeah.
or excuse someone else's poor behavior.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, one thing that we've also talked about a lot on this show is that, when you stay focused on regret, this keeps you focused in the past. It keeps you stuck in your breakup. And so rather than dwelling on what I wish I would have known or done, or now that I know this about myself, I should have done this, or now that I know this, think you know this about your ex. I should have done this. We encourage people to say, what I will do differently in the future
Mhm.
is, and it puts the power to create great things in your own hands rather than in your ex's. Use
Yeah.
these as, tools and magical new information.
So just remember, like, no amount of knowledge about your attachment style or beliefs about your ex's attachment style can make up for your ex not being engaged in the process of growth. Like, this person is clearly already acted in ways you don't understand because you broke up. And if you're here, chances are you don't understand that breakup. Um, so also the relationship probably ended for many reasons other than attachment style. And attempting to like impose your newfound knowledge onto like this past situation, this this relationship that is no longer, in an
Yeah, that is
attempt
such
to
a good
fix it.
point.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people saying the breakup happened because of attachment, and yeah, there's so much more to it than that. And
Yeah.
like I would say, sit down and start thinking about the many things that kind of went wrong over the years or that you
Hmm.
didn't like. Relationships fall apart because they're not functional anymore,
Hmm.
and it's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and your actions are not preordained. You do have personal responsibility over how you're acting.
Yeah, I have to
Um,
say,
yeah.
at one point I did have someone actually say to me, ask me. So I said, I think you can focus on how to kind of change this tendency of yours. And they actually said to me, you can change your attachment style.
Yeah.
And then I was like, we've got to address this
Yeah,
because,
because you
this
can
is,
change it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, completely. And I feel sad that people think that this is some type of something encoded on us, which is
Yeah.
another thing that I think some of the people who talk about attachment focus on too much, is this
Mhm.
notion that it's things that happen to you when you're an infant that kind of encode this on you. And
Yeah.
it's just not how I think about relationships and personal growth, I guess.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I think the system is just so much more complicated than that. Like, I
Yeah,
think we are like conditioned and programmed to be in certain ways, but that programming is constantly shifting and constantly being like new inputs into the system. And I don't think it's something you can categorize into three or four categories and have that be like the explanation for everything in your
totally.
life. Yeah.
Mhm.
So here's the thing. Discovering that your ex was avoidant does not mean that you should then become less anxious to make it work with them. In fact, the book is actually very clear that they don't recommend like if you are feeling like you are anxious, they don't actually recommend trying to change yourself to be with an avoidant person. They're like,
Mhm.
eventually you can't keep it up, and this person's going to be like, what happened? You're not the same anymore. And if it is something that you realize, okay, I'm married to an avoidant person, I have kids, I don't want to give up on this, you need to have like both people committed to working on it and working with like a couples counselor to get your different styles more in alignment. It's not something, basically, like, I think what I'm saying by this is that, like, you have the ability to change, but you don't have the ability to change other people. So while you're
Mhm.
working on your own attachment style, if someone is like flagrantly avoidant and you know that's a trigger for you, don't date that person.
Yeah.
Um,
I
maybe they'll improve in the future or
mhm.
like do something different in the future, but like it's not your job to teach them and it's not your job to do all of the personal development in the relationship, you
Well,
know?
it doesn't work. It's
Yeah.
not, and people don't like it. you
Yeah.
know, two people can decide to work on a relationship together and not necessarily, I think, subscribe to the same things.
Yeah.
But it's just a general commitment. I also think there's just this over emphasis on avoidance being bad people and bad partners. And
And they're not, no.
I don't agree with that. I think you can be avoidant for good reasons. I think, not wanting to be in a relationship is, a perfectly valid choice.
Mhm.
Someone reading the book would probably say that I'm avoidant. I don't see myself that way. And, it's like, I don't know. I feel like these people are kind of being demonized. I mean, I've even heard people saying that they are now putting on their dating profiles no avoidance. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
it's one tendency, just
Yeah.
like being anxious is a tendency that shows up in negative ways. Being
Mhm.
avoidant can show up in negative ways.
Yeah.
And
Um, and I think also when you are analyzing yourself and someone else in the context of a breakup,
mm-hmm.
like your ex is going to seem the dumper is going to seem like they're avoidant because they're trying to leave you. And like they obviously, they might not be avoidant. They might just not want to be with you.
Yeah.
Um, and trying to diagnose someone just on like one situation, where it's like, oh, like they were like the perfect partner all the way up until the breakup, and then they just like became avoidant. And it's like, no, they decided to end the relationship.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're avoidant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also avoidant attachment is not synonymous with just being a shitty partner. Someone could just be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yes. And
you
anxious
know,
people can as well.
anxious people
You know,
can as well. Cheaters might just be a person who cheats. They might not be anxious or avoidant. Like, they just might be an opportunist, or they might just
yeah.
have a unethical kink or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So leave
Yeah.
that behind. You don't necessarily have to like believe people can change. You can change yourself if you want to change, but you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to believe that anyone else in the world will change just because you know how they possibly could change. Anyway, I think I think of attachment style has been like very akin to how people are talking about narcissism online, where it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can label almost anyone as a narcissist
Mm-hmm.
based on, a few factors in a few
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, and they're not maybe necessarily a narcissist at all. Maybe they just had a narcissistic tendency and they exhibited it in that moment, because we are all a little bit narcissist. Because we're not all like dying for each other out here, like we're not
yeah.
altruists.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not a full altruist, you are fairly have a little bit of narcissism. You might just not be clinical. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I also would say all of us are, and maybe none of us are. I don't, I don't know. It's like, there's so many different ways
Yeah.
to look at it. But yes, I think what you're saying is if, all of our bad sides come up during a breakup.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that your ex is this. It just, I mean, you're showing your bad self.
Yeah.
That's for sure. You're not
Yeah.
trying to put your best foot forward when you're separating from someone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or
But
even
we
with
see
that
this
intention,
overemphasis
often
on
don't.
describing exes as avoidance, and an overemphasis on describing personal bad behavior as being anxious.
Yeah.
I see very, very few people out there saying, I did this thing that I regret because I'm avoidant. You see almost
Yeah.
everyone saying, I did this bad thing because I'm anxious.
Yeah.
And I just think there's a really big opportunity in this space to reframe how we talk about these tendencies, to talk about how do we use this information to become better people. And
Yeah.
that's why we're trying to put this out there in the conversation,
Yeah.
in our community.
Yeah, and I think, my theory is I feel like I read this somewhere and agreed with it, but I really don't know where. I can't find it for the life of me, but
Okay.
I think it's become kind of my theory at this point, is that
Mhm.
like a lot of the content
Uh-huh.
on attachment styles
Uh-huh.
is kind of written for and by anxious people. Because they're just more likely to be obsessing over the details of circumstances possibly
Uh-huh.
than an avoidant who's just like, no, I moved on and that was it, you know? So
Yeah,
I don't
could
know. That's
be.
kind of
I
my
also
theory.
but it's framed in a way that in a lot of conversations that you'd be much more likely to want to label yourself as anxious because
Hmm.
it's out there like anxious people just want love so
They're
bad,
victims.
you
Yeah.
know, whereas avoidant people are kind of demonized as being jerks. And so I
Yeah.
think if I would much rather say that, you know, I do these things in my relationships because I want love rather than
Yeah.
I do these things in relationships because I'm a jerk who doesn't care about people's feelings. So why
Yeah.
would you say that you're avoidant when
True.
it's it's very
Yeah.
biased, and I guess that's another thing that we could have talked about. I don't know
Yeah.
that it matters too much. I
Uh-huh.
just think, you know, we just have to keep on coming back to the role of personal responsibility in all of this.
Yeah, exactly. And then also keep in mind this is just one book on attachment theory. We've talked about, I'm taking a course on basically attachment theory, and Janice
Yeah.
is reading other materials
Mhm.
on this. So, like, just because we're having issues with how it's portrayed on social media and having issues with like a specific book on attachment theory, like this has been like researched and by many like scientists over 30-40 years. Like it's
Yeah,
not
that's a
something
good
that's
point.
new. It's
Mhm.
not something that can be attributed specifically just to like one book or one author.
Yeah.
This is just happens to be, I think, like kind of the most popular book right now on attachment style.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
um
that's another thing that we could put out there is, you know, who else is studying this? Who else has studied this? What are their
yeah,
approaches? Because like I said, when I took that class with Conscious Partner, I was impressed by all of
yeah,
the different resources that they had from um, far above and beyond that one book for sure.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I do think that when something becomes popular, then it does kind of bleed into just, you know, the overall consciousness of the
yeah.
public, and that's kind of what we've seen happen. All right, so that was a good episode, a little bit of a sensitive one, could you say?
Yeah,
I
I
think we
feel
did
like
a good
there's gonna
job.
be some people who were a little bruised maybe by
Mhm.
this,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping that like through the way we explained it and everything, that it just leads to like more growth for people
Yeah.
and eventually leads to like more positive outcomes.
Yep. I
Um
mean, we definitely once in a while have to or choose to take a, you know, brutally honest approach to
yeah.
things and kind of a hard truths approach to things. And it's just because we genuinely want to help people,
Yeah,
and that, you know, a lot of coaching is kind of leading people in a different direction from where they're
exactly.
going. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, because, it's, I think that a lot of the people in your life who love and care about you are going to tell you what you want to hear. But we will tell you what we actually think is true and right, and will
Yeah.
actually help you the most long term, even if it's not what you want to hear right now. So,
So what did you think? Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you loved it.
yeah, if you didn't
And
love
yeah.
it, DM us and let us know, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, Claire is doing this 4-month course.
Yeah,
I, you know, consider or continue to study many things in relationships. So this will be something that we will return to. And
yeah,
yes, if, you know, if we do get lots of pushback, you know, maybe that's where we could focus on in another episode.
yeah,
So many of our episodes are informed on or by the DMs that we get
yeah,
and the communication that we have with people in the community. So yeah, let us have it.
exactly. Yeah.
And if you want to work with us to overcome your attachment tendencies, hit us up in the DMs and we'll send you information. Thank you for listening to X Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on.
If you liked this episode, please help others find us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or by following the show on Spotify.
And if you'd like to connect more with us and learn about breakup coaching, find us on Instagram at X Files Podcast.